and welcome to My Career in Data, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders and experts how they have built their careers. I'm your host, Shannon Kemp, and today we're talking to Suresh Srinivas from Collate.
With a robust catalog of courses offered on demand and industry-leading live online sessions throughout the year, the DATAVERSITY Training Center is your launchpad for career success. Browse the complete catalog at training.dataversity.net and use code DVTalks for 20% off your purchase.
Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at DataVersity. And this is My Career in Data, a DataVersity Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there and to talk with people who help make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Today, we are joined by Suresh Srinivas, CEO and co-founder of Collate Incorporated. And normally this is where a podcast host would read a short bio of the guest, but in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Suresh, hello and welcome.
Shannon, I'm super excited to be here at DataVersity. And hello to DataVersity podcast listeners.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to share your story today. So tell me, let's dive in here. You know, you're the CEO and co-founder of Collate. So tell me, for those who may not know, what type of business is Collate?
Yeah, Collate builds a AI-powered semantic intelligence platform. What we do is we unify metadata in a unified semantic metadata graph and build a trusted layer for data to help people and AI find, understand, and use data in the same way. The main goal is to have shared context and understanding of data between people and AI. From our experience, we understood that this lack of shared context and meaning is the cause of most problems that we see when organizations try to create value from data. We build trusted data with our agentic AI that automates data quality, data observability, and governance, right? All the work that people are doing, we automate it away so that people can focus on creating value from the data. Now, from my experience, having worked in data for a long time, data has been challenging for many organizations. It sort of has been a hit or a miss for a long time, right? Now, with AI coming in a big way, the challenges of untrusted data without the context will exponentially grow. You're already, hearing murmurs about how many of the AI projects are failing and how trusted data and the context is super important, right, to get value from AI. Semantic intelligence platform that we are building addresses these challenges to help in creating business value from data. Now, finally, Collate is the company behind the #1 open source project for metadata platform called Open Metadata. Right, Open Metadata project has been growing, tremendously over the last 4 years. Now we have over 12,000 community members, 400 code contributors from all over the world, and over 3,000 community deployments of Open Metadata. Right, and Collate Semantic Intelligence Platform is built on this strong open foundation.
Wow, that's amazing. And so very relevant to what's going on today. So very, very hot topic. Obviously, you're hitting a sweet spot there. I mean, we're seeing the same thing, right? So many companies trying to stand up AI, but are missing that foundation of having some good data or even knowing what data to put into their AI.
Yeah.
So amazing. And you hit some really big buzzwords there. I kind of want to dive into that. You say you automate data quality, you automate data governance. How are you doing that, and to what, extent? I assume that you still need people to create the data governance policies to be implemented.
We do a couple of things. One is we organize the data, right? Document it automatically using AI, right? Data quality is a big problem in organizations. We also automate data quality. Now, when it comes to governance, There has been a big challenge where there are people who are focused on governance and there are technical people who are getting the data ready within the organizations.
Mm.
And the gap between the data governance and the technical people don't understand the governance related policies deeply. The governance people don't understand the technicality of the data, right? So we are using AI to bridge this gap, right? So essentially, we help you create data governance policies. And these data governance policies are essentially documents that people end up creating, right, from the governance teams.
Mhm.
We translate that into how to organize your data. So we do, for example, I already talked about documenting all your data, which is very important for data governance. We also do all your data classification, right? What is your sensitive data? What is your non-sensitive data, right? And how is it sensitive? What policies apply, right, for this sensitive data? And then identify the policies within the organization, apply those policies, right? We also help you understand who is using your data, how are they using it, for what purposes, to make sure that the data that you collected is used for the right purposes.
Very nice. So tell me, as the CEO and co-founder, what is it that you do to support the company that you're building?
Yeah, so CEO's role, is different at different stages of the company. One of my colleagues always jokes with me, in an earlier startup, CEO is actually, it means Chief Everything Officer, right? So you end up doing pretty much everything, right? So
Mhm.
now my own role as a CEO has evolved over a period of time. Right, during initial years, I was coding and building the product with my co-founder, right? Over a period of time, my focus has moved to, building the best team to realize the vision that we have, right, for data. And then additionally, as a CEO, I'm focused on, sales and marketing. In fact, when we started the company, we had the goals of hitting certain revenue numbers, all driven by founding team instead of
Mhm.
hiring a sales team at that stage of the company. So sales and marketing is a big focus area for me, right? And so just as a chief everything officer, you should be ready to roll up your sleeves and should be able to do what is needed, right? And on any day this could change to anything. So
Yeah, so true. It's such a great. I love that chief everything officer is, because it is very true when you're working in a startup. You really do have to dive in and do everything. And I love that you're talking about how you're handling sales and marketing. I think so many, especially developers, go in and forget that piece. They have this great idea for a tool, but the sales and marketing is such an important aspect of building a business. So how do you work with data in your job? Like, how is that integrated in part of your day-to-day responsibilities?
while Collate is focused on helping organizations realize full potential of data and get business value from it, um, we ourselves have been data people for a long time, right? My co-founder and I. And so data is at the heart of, everything that we do. We are extremely data driven, right? So we understand that to continuously improve as a company, we need to measure what we are doing, identify areas of improvement, and then continuously iterate over becoming better, right? So we collect all kinds of data, right, from our product, the code development, the sales and marketing, web traffic. All of these things are data that we collect, and we continuously use it to measure ourselves and become better. Another focus we have internally is build automations powered by data, right, to improve
Mm.
business efficiency. We are a small team and we want to actually do a lot of work, right, more efficiently, and data powers that, right? So we are also helping our customers to do the same, right? So automate many things in the organization so people can focus on more important work of creating value, right, for the business instead of wasting time on mundane tasks. So data is at the heart of everything that we do, and it is at the heart of everything our customers do.
I have to say, you're at such a great advantage. I mean, the fact that your whole company is built on this automation, you have this tool set capabilities to create such an efficient company. That's really very nice. I love that. So tell me, okay, so let's talk about why. Let's get back, go back a bit, start from the beginning, and then let's build into how you ended up creating a whole company. So tell me, Suresh, is this what you wanted to be when you grew up? So, like, say when you're 6 years old, did you think to yourself, "I'm going to grow up and start this semantic layer AI company and be the CEO and founder of it"? Or what was the dream when you were 6?
Yeah, so when I was 6, I wanted to be a scientist, right? I was into math and solving puzzles and all of that.
Yeah.
But later in my life, I was introduced to computers, and I fell in love with it. Right? It's same math and solving
Mhm.
problems and debugging issues and
Yeah.
building something and then see it not work and then fix it. Um, has been something that I fell in love with, right? And so programming has been, my passion, right? Even now, I think the best during my weekends when I get some time, I code, right? Even other days I'm busy with doing everything, right? And so this is the thing that I've fallen in love, and over a period of time, building distributed systems, fault tolerant systems, web scale, solutions. This is what I have done, and I'm super grateful for the opportunities that I've gotten to work on these kinds of issues in my career.
Very cool. So when you say you wanted to be a scientist, like were you thinking, I'm gonna mix things in beakers and, or like what kind of scientist were you looking to be?
More of physics related than chemistry, but
Rockets.
science and engineering.
Nice, nice. So then you got into computers. What was your first job?
For initial, part of my career, I was focused in communication, telecommunication specifically, right? So I started working with, from India for Nortel Networks. At the time, they were building, digital telecommunication solutions. And then later, in early 2000s, voice over IP and telecommunication was a very, very hot technology segment. So I ended up working in at the time, the market was opened up for telecommunication, right? So for, to have more competition, right? And innovation in the telecommunication segment, all based on voice over IP with internet booming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I worked in a startup building a voice over IP solution. That's where I started working on real-time distributed systems that are fault tolerant. So that was the initial part of my career. And then as working on, large-scale distributed systems, I started becoming interested in these web scale solutions that people were building. And I was very fortunate to be able to join Yahoo. Yahoo was building at the time Hadoop, Apache
Mm-hmm.
Hadoop. And Apache Hadoop was a way of using huge number of computers, right, to solve much bigger data problems, right? So you use 1,000 to 4,000 at that point in time. The computers, commodity hardware, which stores large amounts of data. At that point in time, Yahoo was storing the entire internet web crawl data, right, in Hadoop. So it's huge amount of data, right? And being able to process that using the same commodity hardware. So you take these very large problems, divide it into smaller problems, and then thousands of computers will work on it, right? These small parts simultaneously. So what would take a regular computer maybe 1 year to, solve, you would solve that in, under an hour, right? So that's the kind of web scale data and the web scale compute that we were building at Hadoop. And so that's where my data journey started, right? And that's where, with Hadoop, this entire big data wave started, right? So I was very fortunate to join the Yahoo team and work there as a part of core Hadoop team. And then in last 15 years or so, everybody started having these big data problems, right? They were collecting so much data. Initially, Hadoop was used by Netflix and Facebook, LinkedIn. These are web companies, right? But it also became a problem for regular enterprises because now they have online digital platforms. They are collecting user behavior, right? All kinds of data started being collected from enterprises, and big data became a problem in enterprises also. And that gave us an opportunity, being core Hadoop team. We had an opportunity to start our own company. So I was co-founder of Hortonworks, and the idea was to take Hadoop and the related technologies to solve big data problems at the enterprises. So that's how I became, a co-founder at Hortonworks. Towards the end of my Hortonworks journey, I realized that people were having challenges solving their data problems, even though they had this powerful, compute and storage, big data engines, right? To understand the user side of problems, why is it, what are the challenges in terms of realizing value from these platforms and create business value from data? I joined Uber, right? At the time, Uber was a data centric company. Everything Uber did was centered around data. And, here is a world class data company, and there's so much that I can learn, the user side of things. I joined and then realized when I joined Uber, they were also going through a lot of data challenges, right?
Mm.
And I was tasked to solve some of these problems, taking an end-to-end approach, first principles approach. And the learnings from that, right? Three key learnings. One is people lack the context of data. So they didn't understand the data, and that's the reason why they were getting poor outcomes from the data. Second thing I realized is data had become, instead of a few people, trying to get the data ready for the organization, few other people getting insights from it, data democratization had made everybody data users, right? And so collaboration between these different personas that had emerged was second key to solving the problem. And then the third thing that I talked about previously, people were spending inordinate amount of time on some mundane tasks of cleaning the data, documenting the data, and things like that, and realized that automation was key to get data to the next level. So these three, we use these three first principles to solve many of the problems at Uber, and then realize that Uber is a couple of years ahead of other companies that are using the data in the same way. So decided to start an open source project called Open Metadata, right? So my background is building companies around open source. And so decided to build Open Metadata as an open source project that is solving the data challenges based on these three key first principles.
Visit dataversity.net and expand your knowledge with thousands of articles and blogs written by industry experts, plus free live and on-demand webinars covering the complete data management spectrum. While you're there, subscribe to the weekly newsletter so you'll never miss a beat.
Amazing. So you've worked for a very large company, found problems, decided to found a company, then wanted to dive back into the company's perspective. So you join another large company to find out more problems and start yet another company. That's amazing. I love that story. So what gave you aside from the idea, what inspired you to say, hey, I'm going to go do this on my own the first time? And how did you step into that?
what I'm really passionate about, right, even more than programming, is building things, right? Building
Mm.
things to solve customer problems. And, I've always been passionate about it, right? And here is a challenge that everybody is going through. And we had some key insights working on this at a large scale at Uber on how to solve this. And at that time, when we saw how the market is, there were a lot of pointed tools that were not connecting, talking to each other. The context that is so important, right, to realize full value from data was siloed, right, across many different tools. What we realize is we realize metadata is key to solving this problem. And we took a different approach. We turned this problem inside out, right? Instead of building a solution that has metadata, we actually built unified metadata graph. On top of it, many of these tools that people were building could be built in a unified manner, right? That was our key insight. You don't need this disconnected multiple tools that actually creates more problems, because the workflow of a data practitioner gets broken, right? And so we decided that metadata is at the heart of solving this problem, and many other solutions that existed as point tools could be built in a unified manner. We were super excited about it. And so the second thing is, we also realized that metadata is the most valuable, important data any organization has. And we were seeing, one, it is disconnected. Two, it was all trapped in this vendor, locked in tools. So we decided that metadata needs a open solution based on open standards, and key to that is building it as an open source, right? So we ended up building open metadata for that reason, right? So an important problem, right? A different way of approaching the problem, especially having looked, in the past on how data is evolved, and there are so much lessons that we have learned. One key lesson is it's time for a unified integrated platform. And then finally, I had a great co-founder, right? He's an amazing engineer. So, we had all the ingredients to build a great company to solve an important problem. So it was a no-brainer.
Okay. So tell me, so what's been the biggest lesson so far in your career?
Oh, there are so many lessons. So I'm glad that you said lessons instead of lesson. I'll talk about a couple of key lessons that I have learned. First one is understand the problem that you're solving deeply, right? And approach that problem from first principles. The second thing is ship continuously, right? And improve product iteratively based on customer feedback. I tell this to, my teammates all the time. Perfect is the enemy of good in case of product development, right? So don't wait for perfect, right? Build, if it is good enough, put it in the hands of customers, and you will learn a lot more, right, about the problem and the solution that you're building. Finally, right, as a founder, I would say give freedom and ownership to the people that you work with, right, to get the best results, right? Instead of feeding fish, right, help everyone learn to, fish and do things on their own. When you give this ownership, the kind of productivity and the support that you get from your team is astonishing.
Yeah, those are some really great lessons. Um, what has what so having worked with data so long and having that been, such a primary focus for most of your career, what is your definition of data?
So data today mainly comes in two forms. One is structured and then unstructured, right? So structured is where you have data warehouses and databases and all of that, and the data is organized into, some kind of a table, column, rows. There's also unstructured data. There is a lot of, insights, directions that are there in, your documents, images, videos, and things like that, right? So these are two broad categories of data that, were solved in the past independently, right? There are separate documentation processing, that used to happen, and then the structured data was in its own siloed world. What is happening now is with AI coming in, there is a unification of these two large structured and unstructured data segments, right? So with AI, you would be able to handle this data in a holistic manner. And all of this, both structured, unstructured, all kinds of data will be combined together to create insights.
Very nice. So, do you see then the importance of data management and the number of jobs working with data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years, and why?
So the importance of data management is going to be, super, critical, right? We've been for a long time. You've heard data governance and all of that, and people were getting the data ready for other people to consume, and then the governance was making sure that it was being done in the right way. That itself, we have seen in the last decade, has been very challenging, and I don't think the problem is solved really well. Now, imagine getting the data ready for AI, right? People trying to get the data ready for AI, and then now you have agentic AI and all kinds of agents that are trying to access the data, use the data, right, and give insights from the data to you. So getting the data ready by the people for AI is going to be almost an impossible task, right? The only way to do this is AI helping you make the data ready for AI, right? That's where we are building all the automation using AI to make the data ready for AI. And data management is going to be, super critical in this world. Now, for the second part, right, number of jobs working with data, my take here is the number of jobs will increase, but the job that people will do will be different, right? You've seen, right, with coding, right, Claude and all of that. Coding has become easier, but the reviews have become harder, right? And at some point in time, somebody needs to understand all this code that is generated and how it is getting put together to solve the problem. In the same way, I think many of the things that people are doing manually today by hand is going to be automated, right? And the productivity of each of these people will increase tremendously. But I feel that people, human in the loop will still be there, and they'll be doing different kind of work, right? Of ensuring that things are correct, right? So from that perspective, the nature of the job is going to change. But I feel that as you start today, I don't think that data is used really well in the organization. They are tapping into the full potential of that data. There will be a big change there with AI coming in, where people will tap into their data, right? As they start using more of their data for different decision making and create value, there are other kinds of people that are going to be part of this, right? uh, their job is different, their job is critical, but there'll be more of them.
Yeah, I agree, especially as companies continue to go through their digital transformations, right? It's still happening at very early stages in so many companies. Like you say, so what advice then would you give to people looking to get into a career in data management, especially as these jobs evolve?
What I would say is focus on business outcomes instead of getting fixated on tools, right? So especially, you know, having had a front seat to the big data revolution,
Mm-hmm.
what I've seen is there is some level of tool consolidation is happening, but the technical people in data are fixated on tools. What I would say is understand the business needs, work with business users to understand what outcomes they are looking for deeply, right? That is more important, right? And tooling is an implementation detail, right? Also, AI is going to be a big enabler in data, right? Adapt the AI, tools that are coming in and learn to use it effectively is what I would say. Finally, right, the way I see it, the future is a combination of machine intelligence and human ingenuity, right? A lot of things that people, today, human intelligence is used for doing a lot of mundane tasks, right? It will be replaced by machine intelligence. We should embrace that. People who are creative and understand the business needs deeply will create great outcomes, right? And they will create that efficiently using all the AI enablement that they get. So be curious, be creative, and adopt all these tools that are coming on your way to solve, understand your business needs and create business outcomes.
Oh, that's such great advice. And we talk a lot about curiosity here and in the podcast. Such an important aspect of data management. And we believe too, that you're talking about the, understanding the business. We offer communication classes in our tool set because it is such an important thing to be able to talk to the executives, talk to people in the business and understand what is going on and be able to communicate that back into functional data.
That is a great idea. I think there's a big gap between people who are very technical, focused on the implementation details of the data, and then people who are focused on the business outcomes and that gap needs to be filled. And that is by one, bringing business users close to data, and then the data, right, technical folks bringing close to business. And one thing that I see is AI is going to be a great enabler for business users to actually start using data, right, with not deep technical depth, but then have people with great, technical depth to be in the loop to ensure that what they are getting out of AI is the right outcome, right? And so this is going to actually require, a strong collaboration between data, technical people, and the business users, and AI is going to bridge this gap in a big way.
Yeah. So exciting, right? There's so many possibilities.
No, I believe that there have been a couple of waves with data, right? There's, a wave of Hadoop, which made possible using commodity hardware to store and process large amounts of data, right? That was a first wave. And then the second wave was cloud, right? That enabled you don't have to have all this infrastructure. You have cloud, right? That with which you can have this kind of a infrastructure, right? I'm super excited about this third wave of AI, where I think the big promise of data will be realized through AI enabling, right, the business users, and then technical teams collaborating with business users. So AI is a big wave for data.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, well, this has been such a pleasure chatting with you today, Suresh. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Shannon, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Had, a lot of fun talking to you.
Likewise. So, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask, if people wanted to learn more about Collate, where would they go?
To learn more about Collate, you can go to getcollate, one word, .io, getcollate.io. And then also you can go to open-metadata.org for the open source project Open Metadata. Join our community in Open Metadata. It's a thriving community. Welcome any of you who are interested in data.
Yeah, community will love that if they haven't heard of it already. We'll get those links posted to the podcast page. And Suresh, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Shannon.
And to all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to keep up to date in the latest in data management and the latest in the data management podcast, you may go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, everyone. Thank you for listening to DATAVERSITY Talks, a podcast brought to you by DATAVERSITY. Subscribe to our newsletter for podcast updates and information about our free educational webinars at dataversity.net/subscribe.